Hey grade 9s, this is the last little section on similar triangles. I looked at the schedule after you left class on Wednesday and I said, oh, what time do I have these little guys tomorrow? And I didn't. And then I thought, okay, well I'll get them on Friday, and it's Friday afternoon as you see right now, and I'm not here. So I'm gone, and I was going to miss you, and I wanted to get to you to this last section, but this is going to have to do. So as you're watching the YouTube video, what I want you to do is make sure as you're watching it, you're concentrating on how to do the questions. We're going to have a pause in here. I'd like to hit pause once in a while to try the question and see how I do it. That'll help a lot as we progress through this. So if you take a look here, we've got similar triangles, and I bet you 20 bucks you can't make this happen with, how many dice is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Find 14 dice and see if you can build that. I know you can't. Okay, just reviewing what we worked on Wednesday. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle RPQ. Find the lengths of RP and AC. Okay, well, if I know this is a similar triangle, I know that this corresponding side is the same as that, or angle, sorry, and this corresponding angle is the same as that, and this corresponding angle is the same as that, which means then that that side corresponds to this side, which means it has a ratio which is equal to this side and this side. Now, if I look at this and I'm trying to solve, say, R to P to begin with. R to P is this length right here. So I'm going to mark it as X. And I'm just going to go over this big over little equals big over little. And that refers to the corresponding sides of each triangle. So I'm going to find the big triangle, and I'm going to find corresponding sides that work. And there's two right here. So I'm going to say the big side over the little side of the corresponding triangle is equal to the big, which is this one, X, over this one, 8. All right? And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cross multiply and then solve for X. Now I want you to make sure you're showing your work, so we're going to cross multiply there. 12 times X is 12X. 16.8 times 8 is 134.4. So that's the first step, and I need to see this step right there. That's an absolute. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 12. Divide both sides by 12. That divides out, so X equals 134.4 divided by 12 gives me an answer of 11.2. Now, 11.2 would go here. 11.2. And I just have, I have to see if this is reasonable. And it is, because this is the small triangle and 11.2 is bigger. So that makes it a reasonable answer. So then the next part of the question is they want me to find A to C, which is this side. All right? So I'm going to erase this. And then I'm going to take a look and see how I figure this out. So let's call this X now. So when I'm doing this, I got to find a side that corresponds to X. Well, what corresponds to this side is this side. So I'm going to say big over little, 21 over X equals, I'm going to find the big side, and I can pick that and that. That would be fine. Or I can pick, now that I know this one, and this one. Either one would be fine because they're both corresponding. I'm going to stick to these two. So I'm going to go big, which is going to be 16.8. That's this one. It's the bigger triangle over the corresponding side of the small triangle. All right? So again, I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply X times 16.8, which is 16.8 times X. And then I'm going to multiply 12 times 21, which gives me an answer of 252. All right? So again, this step is absolutely necessary. So let's get in a habit of doing that now. I divide both sides by 16.8. Divide by 16.8. That divides out. And so then x is going to equal, I'm going to divide that by 16.8 in my calculator here, and I'm going to get 15 on the nose. So let's just clean that up. So x is going to equal 15. And again, I want to check to see if this answer is reasonable for here. Could 15 give me, if I put this here as 15, is that a reasonable value? Let me erase that. Is that a reasonable value? Well, it's the longest side, and it's bigger than 12, and it's bigger than 8, so that seems reasonable because this side is the longest between 16.8 and 11.2. So if that's the longest side, this corresponding side also has to be the longest side in the small triangle. Okay, so again, we're always talking in terms of corresponding sides from the big triangle over the little triangle. That's the ratio that we're going to use. So this is really the most important thing to remember. Okay? Because getting this is the hardest part of this. Okay? That's why I think most of you are going to find this easy to do. Okay, here's two triangles. The two triangles in each diagram are similar. Find each length represented by x. Okay, well this top question is from a different portion of the question. And the question here for this top part basically says, are these two triangles similar? How do you know? Now we know that triangles are similar when all three angles are exactly the same. That one is the same as that one. Angle A is the same as angle E, but we don't know if angle F and angle C are the same. But we do, and we talked about that the other day. If two triangles of a, two angles in a triangle, two angles in a triangle are the same, then that means the third angle that they don't give you has to be the same. So now I've got three pairs of angles that are identical. So in fact, these triangles here, these are similar triangles. Okay? Now, going down to this question, this question here, the two triangles in each diagram are similar. Find each length represented by x. So we're looking for x, which is here. There it is on the page. So I have to find out what side corresponds to this guy. What corresponds to that? Well, that would be this one. Now, I know that this corresponds, 42 is going to correspond, let's do that in a different color. 42 is going to correspond to 21. And now that I know that x corresponds to 14, I'm simply going to go big over little. So it's going to be big over little. So I'm going to write that over here. I got 14 over x is going to be the same ratio as 42 over 21. So then all I'm going to do from here, and again, to me, that is the hardest thing to do in this, to get that correct. Because once that's correct, you're just doing some simple algebra. I'm going to cross multiply x and 42 and get 42x. I'm going to cross multiply 21 and 14, and that's going to be 21, 210, and 84 is 294, but let me just double check that. 21 times 14, 294. I'm good. So that's 294. So 42x equals 294. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 42. Divide by 42. And those divide out, which gives me an answer of x equals whatever 294 divided by 42 is. Well, that's pretty obvious. It's going to be 7. So x equals 7. Now, again, the question is, if I erase this, if I put a 7 here, is that a reasonable value? Well, absolutely it is. And some of you might have recognized this right away. 21 is exactly half the size of 42. which means this side here had to be exactly half of its corresponding side, which in this case was 14. So 7 is the correct answer. Okay? Here's a question. Here's a couple questions. This is out of your textbooks. I'm not exactly sure what page it is. Let me just look. It is from page 148 in your textbook. So let's find a fancy pen to play with. So this is from page 148. All right. So I'm going to do A. I'm going to set up A, and I'm going to look at this for determine if each pair of triangles is similar. Show how you know. Well, 69 is the same angle as that. So those two angles are corresponding angles. Okay, I'll do that in a different color. These two angles correspond to each other, and they are the exact same measure. These two angles are the same measure. And so I know then that that angle is the same as that angle. So this triangle, the little one, is similar. It's not the same. It's similar to the big triangle. Okay? Now, this one, how do I know that these two are similar? So that one is. What about this one? Well, I know that this angle is similar to that angle. Okay? And that's cool. But I don't know if that angle is similar to any of these. It doesn't look like it is. And I don't know if that angle is similar to any of these. And the problem is I only have one angle that I know, not two. Because if I know two angles, I can tell you what the third one is. But here I only know one angle. So they might be similar. I could check the values of the numbers, and I tell you they don't match up. So this one is not similar triangles. Solve using a method of your choice. Well, you only have one choice, and this is on page 149. Bottom of 149, you'll find this question. All right. So solve using method of your choice. They're telling you that these two angles, or these two triangles, pardon me, are similar. So right away, as soon as you know something's similar, you're going to think in big over little equals big over little. So what they want you to find is the missing length, which is x to the nearest tenth, or nearest tenth. So that's one decimal place. So looking at this, I'm going to say big over little equals big over little. Well, there's a little side, and there's a big side that correspond. Here's another one, and it corresponds to 8. Does it matter which one I use? Not at all. And in fact, some of you might know already that since this is 4 times bigger than that, this side here has to be 4 times bigger than x. So if you know what 1/4 of 10 is, then you probably already know the answer. If you don't, no worries. We're just going to work through it. So I'm going to go big over little, which in this case, I'm going to go 8 over 2. I'm going to take these corresponding sides right here. I'm just going to take this side and this side. So I'm going to go big over little equals big, in this case it's going to be 10 over x, which is the side that I'm looking for over here. So there's my ratio, or my proportion, and again, that's the hardest part to get. So I'm going to cross multiply here. I'm going to multiply 8 and x and get 8x. I'm going to multiply 2 and 10 and get 20. So now I'm just doing algebra. I'm going to divide both sides by 8 to get rid of the, so I isolate x. So x is going to equal 20 divided by 8, which is 2.5. And that's my number. Okay? So in this case, x equals 2.5. All right? Now there's one down here below that we're going to look at. And it's a little bit trickier in the fact that you've got to be careful what your big side is. If I take a look here, I've got lots of corresponding sides that I can deal with, and it's not going to be too difficult, but I know that this is x, and this is the small side. So big over little is not going to be a big problem there. Because I've got, what I have is, if you don't see it, I have, and this is difficult for some people, I've got a big triangle right here in red, and I've got a little triangle in blue inside of it, sitting right on top of it. So there's my big triangle and my little triangle. So big over little is going to be x over 5.4. My big triangle on one of the corresponding sides is going to be difficult. So let's say we chose 8.7 as my little side. Well, the mistake that a lot of kids make is they say the big side is 7.2. Well, 7.2 is only this piece. What the entire length is this whole thing. Whoa, what happened there? Is this whole thing right there. That's the length of the big side. So it's actually 8.7 plus 7.2, which is 15.9. So 15.9 goes there. And that's the trick in those questions, when you've got a triangle inside of a triangle. So now, again, like I said, this is the hard part. Getting that correct is the hard part. So once I've got that figured out, I'm just going to take this and move it up here. So once I've got this all figured out, I just solve away. So I cross multiply here, and I'm going to go x times 8.4, which is 8.4x, equals, and I'm going to cross multiply that, and let me get my handy dandy calculator out here, and 15.9 times 5.4 equals 85.86. 85.86. Divide both sides by 8.4, and x is going to equal, and divide that, where's the calculator? Divided by 8.4, I'm going to get 10.2. So what we're saying is that this side right here is 10.2. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Yep. Because this side here that we used is, let's call it 16. And this side here is 9. So the small side is just under, it's just bigger than half the big side. So here, this side here, the small side, right there, is just over half the size of that. So if this is just over half the size of the big side, then, and this is just over half the size of that big side, then I've got the right answer. So I'm doing well. Okay, here's another one of those questions. Sam built a ramp to a loading dock. The ramp has a vertical support of 2 meters. Here's your vertical support of 2 meters from the base of the loading dock. Okay, so there's the loading dock right here. Whoa, what am I going? Oh, darn, I didn't lock it. All right, give me a second here. I'm going to lock this so it doesn't move. Lock in place. All right, we should be good to go now. What it's saying is the dock is 2 meters from this support right here, is 2 meters away from the loading dock, and 3 meters from the base of the ramp. If the vertical support is 1.2, so if this piece right here is 1.2 meters high, what is the height of this? That's what we're looking for. So with these questions and the ones that you're going to be doing, you've got to be able to figure out, where do I put x? That's the big trick here. And I'm going to put the x there. That's where it goes. All right? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to push pause, and I want you to try this question on your own. Okay, now that you've tried it, let's take a look and see how you made out. This is what I would do. I would say that this big side is corresponding to that, because I've got another situation where a triangle inside of a triangle. So there's one of the triangles. Let's just highlight this a little bit better. I've got a big triangle, like so. And I've got a little triangle right here. There's my little triangle inside the big triangle. So what I have to do is, if I'm calling this x right there, I have to say, well, this side corresponds to that side. So it's going to be big, which is x. X is part of the big triangle, over 1.2. And then I've got to figure out what's big. Well, big is this entire length. So 3 and 2 is 5. So 5 over, now the little triangle is just this piece right here, which is 3. So there's my ratio. And again, that, my friends, is the hard work. You get that right, and you are gold. Okay? So I cross multiply, and I get 3 times x is 3x, and I get 1.5 times, or 1.2 times 5 is 6. Divide both sides by 3. I think you can see where the answer is going to go. X is going to equal 2. So I guess my question would be, did you get 2 for an answer? And is 2 a reasonable answer? Well, it is a reasonable answer because 2 is going to be bigger than this. So we're going to say that it was 2, and because we're dealing with a word problem, that meters is kind of important. All right. You're going to get a couple of handouts with this picture on it right here. This is going to be on. It's photocopied in color, so it's easy to see the pictures. And you'll notice that the picture, or the questions are circled. I want you to do the circled questions on that handout. Now these are going to be done in your binder. Normally I'd get you to redraw the triangles, but we're not going to do that today. But I want you to make sure you're being careful with big over little, big over little. The questions are all word problems. And so if you take a look at number 6 right here, it's one of the first ones you have to do. Your task is to find out, where do I put x? So it tells you that blah, blah, blah. By measuring, she finds that r to s is 5.7. So I would put r to s is 5.7. And o to p is 19.5. So o to p is 19.5. And o to s is 4.2. What is the distance from P to Q? That's this. So I'm going to label that X. So then your job is to figure out what corresponds to what. So I would draw right on these pictures, and I would put the numbers right on there. And then on your, in your binder, in your loose leaf, you're going to write up the ratio big over little, because this is a little triangle right here. X over 5.7 equals big 19.5. I'm going to run out of room here. X over 5.7 equals 19.5 over little, 4.2. All right? So that's your task today. If you don't get done today, which you might not, there's no homework, and we'll pick this up on Monday when you're in class with Mrs. Fickert. So good luck with these. Here's my, for those of you who have cell phones, here's my number. Do not hesitate to text me if you're having trouble. All right? If you've got an iPhone, it's better if you take a picture of it and text me the picture so I can see which question you're exactly working on. Otherwise, good luck. And Mrs. Fickert is a big, big help for this. So she can help you if you're struggling. She knows how to do all this stuff. So does Mr. Birch, so does Ms. Kentner, so does Mrs. Halloran. So any of those people in the school would be able to help you with this, no problem. All right? So good luck, and I will talk to you in a bit.